this happens, it'll either play low or.
That's way out there.
It's really sticky when it's wet though.
He was delivering
That's why they play in it.
Yeah.
Probably to the
When you
ranchers.
look at the oil report, you know, it went down
the
so far, and then
clays.
most of it's crushed granite
About
and
mile marker
humus.
8 or 9 on Iron Street Road.
Oh, okay. Oh, I know where that
Over the
is.
top of the hill.
That's like you're going to the juniper tree area kind of.
So this is SR1 directly to the south.
Isn't that what it's called, the juniper?
That
But
would
it's not
be Tonto
developed.
Road, but it's a little further down.
Yeah, I know what
And
you're talking about.
actually, it looks landlocked.
A lot of horse people, they do horseback riding around
Pepper
that way.
tree would be the only way in from the end.
What's that tree
You
called?
know, but it,
That
if
the
you
one
look
the
at
hot
the
shots rescued?
It's a juniper.
Yeah, there's a
satellite
name
view
for it.
of
Yeah.
it,
Alligator.
Alligator.
doesn't look like
Thank
there's
you.
any easement that whatsoever goes into it.
This is right across the street from the
And
other one
this,
that's there.
here's where the
Yeah,
trail
this
is.
is.
The whole
Well,
home.
isn't this
Those are 6,000 square foot lots.
I mean, this is.
These lots
It's
are
the
just
mobile.
so small.
Expression on my face tells it, huh?
So small, 5 foot so far.
If you look at the house, it's only.
This.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is more.
I got the lowdown on this sensor and some of the issues we've been having on this thing.
Was it more than just needing new batteries?
Like to call to order the Tuesday, November 5th, 2019 regular meeting of the Chino Valley Planning and Zoning Commission. Commissioner Meadors, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
Could we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Welker,
I'm here.
Commissioner McCafferty,
Here.
Commissioner Pasiak,
Here.
Commissioner Switzer.
Here.
Commissioner Metters,
Here.
Vice Chair Armstrong. Nope. We have Commissioner Alternate Somerville
Here.
and Chair Merritt.
Here. Thank you. We're going to go to item 4A, consideration of possible action to approve the October 1st, 2019 regular meeting minutes. Is there any comments or questions? I have one. On page 7, under crime rates, where my statement was that I moved into Yavapai County in 1979, not into Chino Valley, and that my son was actually born in Prescott. He did go to school here, but he was born in Prescott, so I don't know how official that has to be.
So you stated that you moved into.
I may have stated that I moved to town, but I meant to say I moved to Yavapai County.
Okay, Yavapai County.
Yeah, and my son was actually born in Prescott, not in Chino.
Okay, we can correct those.
Thank you. Anybody else have any nitpicking to do? I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes with the changes as noted.
I'll move.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have any staff reports?
I do not have any staff reports tonight.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so we're going to move forward to item 6A, the public hearing. Item 6A, consideration of possible action to adopt ordinance 2019-873 to rezone approximately 10 acres of real property from AR 5, agricultural 5-acre minimum zoning district, to SR 0.16 PAD, single family residential 7,000 square foot minimum lot area with a zoning district with a planned area development overlay. Property is located on the southwest corner of Juniper Drive and Road North 1 East at 710 North Road 1 East, Chino Valley, Arizona 862323. Assessor's parcel number is 306-24-012. Alex.
Just a typo on the actual agenda, not on the staff report, but again on the agenda. The ordinance number is incorrect. That should read ordinance 2019-876.
876?
Yeah, that typo is only in the agenda.
Is that gonna present us any issues with moving forward?
No.
It's
Thank you.
also on page 6.
Good evening, Chair, Commission. Before you, you have an item by the applicant, Paul Slanian. He has applied, and the site that we're going to be discussing today is located on the southeast corner of North Road 1 East and Juniper Drive at 701 North Road 1 East. As you can see here, here's the general aerial map of the property and the general area. The subject property is abutting the subdivision to the north, Colonial Villas subdivision, in which we will be discussing further on. Bonnie Plats further to the north. To the northeast, we have Chino Meadows subdivision. To the southeast, we have Highlands Ranch subdivision. Looking at the south portion, we have Country West Manufactured Home, USDA Forest Services, Roadrunner Mobile Home Park. Further south, we have Walker Estate subdivision. Properties to the south of the subject property are residential in nature, single-family residence. Here's just more information about the property. The property is, in lot size, it's 10 acres in size. Existing zoning on the property is agriculture residential 5-acre minimum. General plan land use designation of the property is medium density residential 2.5 acres. 2 acres or less, sorry. Currently on the property, there's a single family residence and accessory structures. Here we have a zoning map just to see what the zoning of the property is and the surrounding properties, the zoning classification and the relation. As you can see here, the property, the subject property is the only one that's has a classification of agriculture residential 5-acre minimum. To the north, Colonial Villas has a blended zoning of multifamily residential / commercial. Chino Meadows to the northeast, single family residential 0.16 acre minimum or 7,000 square foot minimum lot size. Highlands Ranch to the southeast, multifamily residential mobile / mobile home park. And properties to the west, we have Country West again, mobile home park, 4-acre minimum, and a variety of commercial light, public land, agriculture, 5-acre minimum, and so lot size is going smaller. Here's a site plan that was submitted with a zoning request. As you can see here, I'm gonna give a few details about the project. The applicant is proposing to subdivide the property into 45 lots in nature. The subdivision is going to be developed within 2 phases. Phase 1 will offer 20 lots. Phase 2 will offer 25 lots. That's 45 lots in total. Lot sizes will range from the smaller lots of 4,560 square feet to larger lots that are going to be 9,409 square feet. Average lot size is going to be 5,334 square feet. Density of the project is going to be 4.5 dwelling units per acre. They're going to be dedicating 25% of the actual lot to open space. That's 2.5 acres of the 10 acres. Applicant, some of the notes here, if you can't see, I mean, I'm a little bit bold. I think I already touched on these. Some of the notes up here we're going to be discussing further along. Just in general, the applicant is proposing to have legal access to the lot. He's going to be providing 2 ingress egress points to the subdivision. Both of them are gonna be in Juniper Drive. He is gonna be providing perimeter landscaping along the exterior of the subdivision, going along here in Juniper Drive and going along Pepper Tree as well, and internally within the subdivision on the lot frontage of these lots. He's also gonna be providing landscaping. He will also be providing sidewalks along Road 1 East and Juniper Drive and internally into the subdivision. The open space and amenities are gonna be homeowners association is gonna be responsible for maintaining these open green spaces within the subdivision. The applicant is also proposing to put some type of screening along Road 1 East and Juniper Drive. I believe it's gonna be fencing, and he's gonna be providing wooden fence along the southern property line, abutting the residents to the south. The subdivision will be hooked up to town utilities. We have a 12-inch sewer main going along Juniper Drive and also a 12-inch water main going along Juniper Drive. All lots will be hooked up to town utilities again. Here's just a elevation plan, a conceptual elevation plans of conceptually how the homes are gonna be, how they're gonna look. These are gonna be site-built homes. Here's just the table of currently what the developer will need to abide by per development standards of the single-family residential 7,000 square foot minimum zoning district. Typically with the way the lots are laid out, per development standards, minimum lot frontage 50 feet, minimum front yard setback, depending on what street it's abutting. If it's a major arterial, it's gonna be either 50 feet or 40 feet. If it's gonna be some type of local street, it's gonna be 20 feet. In this case, we're talking about the lots facing internally within the subdivision on the local street will be 20 feet. Minimum side yard setbacks are gonna be 10 feet. Minimum street yard setbacks, that means lots that are abutting in the front of a street and on the side of a street as well. It's depending on the section, again, what street it's abutting on the side. If it's gonna be a major arterial or collector street, it'll be either 50 or 40 feet building setback, and if it's gonna be a local street, it'll be 20 feet. Minimum rear yard setback, when the rear of the property is abutting another property, 20 feet. Maximum building height, 25 feet. Maximum lot coverage, 50 feet. And I'll be displaying these visually as well, so you can see it more in a visual form. As far as landscaping, we have, landscaping and sidewalks. We have a portion of the landscaping code that talks about sidewalks, and we have a different section within the code and the street design standards that also talks about sidewalks. Section 4.26.4 of the landscaping regulations require lots abutting an arterial or collector street to provide a minimum of a 6-foot wide sidewalk separated by a landscaping strip of at least 8 feet. For those lots that are abutting a local street, a 5-foot sidewalk is required with a 6-foot landscaping strip. Now, if we look at the street design standards, section 5.3.2, it indicates that residential dwelling units residential less than 1 dwelling per acre do not require sidewalks. In this case, since he's requesting or he's providing lots that are less than an acre in size by street design standards, they want to require sidewalks. Typically, by good planning practice, when there's two portions or two sections of the of the zoning regulations which contradict each other in this sense. Not contradict, but give different direction. Typically, we go by the more stringent standard. In this case, it would be the landscaping section, which we, as staff, are requiring the developer to provide sidewalks externally and internally within the subdivision. So here, again, we're talking about typical building setbacks. If we were abiding by the development standards within the SR point 016 zoning regulation. So if we see here a typical interior lot, which would be any lot that's has a neighboring lot to the sides. Perfect example is this yellow one here. Through our development standards, it requires them to have the building setback 20 feet in the front, if it's within abutting the local street, 10 on the sides and 10 on the rear. On the lot, for example, the one that's right here on the corner, it will require them to have the building setback 20 feet from the property line, 10 feet on this, 10 feet on the internal side, 20 feet on the street side, and then 10 feet in the back. For a corner lot that's abutting a local street and another local street, which Juniper Drive is a local street, again, it would be 20 feet in the front, 20 on the sides, 20 on the interior side, and then 10 on the sides. For a lot, which would be any of these lots right here, 13, 12, 11, 10, and 9, which are abutting a main arterial on the rear side, and the main arterial on the rear side, it would be 20 feet in the front, 10 on the sides, and 50 in the rear. So typically, this is if the applicant was going through a zone change with the underlying zoning, just being straight zoning, SR 0.16, the buildings will need to abide by these development standards. As you read in the staff report, the reason we're here is because he's not asking for just straight zoning, but he is asking for a PED overlay. So what exactly is he asking for to deviate from the development standards? So he's asking for building setbacks, which we just touched upon, and we'll keep discussing that. Minimum lot size, minimum lot frontage, minimum lot size, meaning that he's only allowed to go 7,000 square feet lot size, but he's requesting to go lower than that. As we discussed before, the average lot size would be 5,334 square feet. Smallest lot size would be 4,560 feet. Larger lot size would be 9,409 feet. So again, he's asking for deviation from building setbacks, minimum lot frontage. As discussed before, minimum lot frontage requires them to go at least 50 feet in width in the front of the lot, which is abutting the street. He will be abiding by that development standard except for lot 13 and 14. As you can see here, this lot is going to be 35 feet in lot frontage, and this lot is going to be 34. So he's asking for a minimum lot frontage of 34 feet. And our development standards for sidewalks as well. So again, we're talking about deviation from building setbacks, minimum lot frontage, minimum lot size, and a sidewalk development standards. So again, this is what he's proposing. This is comparing what the zoning regulations require him to do and what he's asking. So again, interior side yard to our development standards requires him to go 10 feet from property line. He's requesting 5 feet. Street side yard, 20 feet. He's requesting 8 feet. Front yard with sidewalk, 20 feet. We require, he's going 16 feet. Front yard with that doesn't have a sidewalk, we require 20 feet. He's requesting 11 feet. Those lots that are abutting to the rear of the lot on Road One East, we require, as discussed before, 50 feet. He's requesting 20 feet. Those lots that are abutting by the side yard on Juniper Drive, we require by our development standards 20 feet, and he's requesting 10 feet. And this will be shown visually as well right now. As discussed before, other development standards that he's asking for to deviate from is lot size. Per our code, we require no lower than 7,000 square feet. He's going as low as 4,560 square feet. That's not to say that all lots are gonna be 4,560 square feet. Some of them are. Minimum lot frontage, again, we spoke about that. 50 feet of minimum lot frontage. As we discussed before, there's two lots that are not gonna meet that lot frontage. So he's requesting 34 minimum lot frontage. The other one is gonna meet 35. So that's gonna be lot 13 and 14. And again, sidewalks, as we did previously discussed, per our more stringent portion of the code, we require sidewalks on all lots that are abutting a street, either locally, a collector, or arterial street. And he's requesting to deviate from development standards and only provide sidewalk externally. He is gonna be providing sidewalk abutting Road One East and Juniper Drive, but internally within the subdivision, only on one side of the street. And we'll show that visually as well as we get along. So again, so we could picture it more visually, and on top, we have what our code requires, and we already discussed that, compared to what he's proposing. First two visuals show the lots that have sidewalk abutting the lots, and the lots that don't have the sidewalk abutting the front of the lot. So again, those properties that are gonna be providing a sidewalk, he's proposing to go 16 feet back from property line, 5 feet on the sides, 10 in the rear. Those internal lots that don't have a sidewalk, he's proposing to go 11 feet from property line, 5 on the sides, 10 on the rear. Those lots that are abutting a local street in the front and on the side as a corner lot, he's proposing 11 feet in the front, 8 on the street side, 5 on the internal side, and 10 on the rear. For those lots that are abutting the local street within the subdivision and on Juniper Drive, as shown here on the map, he's proposing 11 feet in the front, 10 on the street side, 5 on the internal side, 10 on the rear. And then those lots that are abutting the local street in the front, as shown here, this lot here, and Road One East to the rear side, he's proposing 11 feet in the front, 5 on the sides, and 20 in the rear. As far as, again, discussing landscaping and sidewalks, the first visual shows, per our code, what he's required to do. He's required to provide a landscaping along the exterior of the subdivision and internally within the local street through the street frontage. So the green is shown as obviously the landscaping, and the orange is shown as a sidewalk. So through our development standards, he needs to provide sidewalks basically throughout all the exterior of the subdivision and internally. And the visual on the bottom shows what he's proposing to provide, which is landscaping hasn't changed. He is going to be providing landscaping along all the exterior of the subdivision and internally within the street frontage. With the sidewalks, though, it does change a little bit. As you can see here, he is going to be providing sidewalks on one east on Juniper Drive, and will stop at Juniper Drive. And internally, he's proposing it all along this side of the street, but only on one side of the street as we get here to the cul-de-sacs and through the exits and entryways of the subdivision. So we've had this discussion before about asking for deviation for deviation through a PAD overlay and what the developer is willing to give in return. We had this discussion before, or to offset what he's requesting. The developer is proposing to obviously provide 25%, that's 2.5 acres of land dedicated to open space, green spaces. He's also proposing off-street parking. Conceptually, he is showing it here next to the open space. He's also proposing a gazebo, pavilion, and picnic area, also shown here within the green space. He's proposing guest parking, I already discussed, off-street trails as well, and he's proposing fencing along Juniper Drive, Road 1 East, and the south property line. Again, all these everything that he's proposing here isn't something that is already required within our development standards within the subdivision. Within our development standards for subdivision, it doesn't call out that he's supposed to give a certain amount of open space or trail systems or picnic areas or gazebos or play sets or whatever for entertainment purposes. He's not requested to provide guest parking and fencing and along the perimeter of the property as well. And we had this discussion with other developments that these are these aren't requirements per our code. This is something that he's offering in return to offset what he's requesting. There is a slide here that for some reason got missed, but I'll discuss it anyways. Give me just a minute. So town staff did notify property owners within the 300-foot radius, resulting in 20 notices for the public notification. The neighborhood meeting was held here at Town Hall on October 23rd. During said meeting, there was 2 residents who attended said meeting. Those residents reside directly south of the property and a little bit further south of the property. Some of the issues that were brought up were the water issue. She stated that even though the developer was going to be hooking up to town utilities, that there was still an issue with the depletion of the wells within that area. So she brought that issue up. She also brought up the issue of the excessive use of water for the landscaping. The developer did assure her that all landscaping will be desert scape, zero scape type of plants that don't require that much water usage. There was a question that one of the residents had about streetlights within the subdivision, and if they were going to be providing streetlights. The applicant did mention that he will be providing some streetlights within the subdivision that would all be low, dim or low level of light, and that would require meet all development standards as far as our light requirements. The neighbor that attended that lives directly south raised some, or both of them actually raised some concerns about 2-story units. If the developer was going to be providing 2-story units, the applicant, I should say, the applicant did state that that nothing was for sure, but that he was thinking about it, that sporadically through some of the units that there might be some 2-story units that would obviously meet development standards, because he's not asking to deviate from that, which limits them to having 25 feet in height. He did assure them, though, that, let me go back, that through a deed restriction, that he would deed restrict these lots abutting the south property line to not be 2-story, so they would more be on this side somewhere, or some of these lots over here. But again, he did assured the resident to the south that did raise this concern that all these lots from 14 to 40 would be deed restricted to 1-story only. He also, again, assured her that he will be providing screening, the wooden fence, for additional screening from the subdivision. All right, so as mentioned before, the development is located within an area within the general plan that does designate it as medium density residential, 2 acres or less. His request does conform to the general plan land use designation, because he's providing an average lot size of 5,334 square feet. Some of the other discussions here, hopefully that you read through my analysis, but it does talk about this area being directly adjacent to the major community core, downtown core. It's actually directly south of it. And the major community core encourages for a higher density, places that are not in quotes, prevailing land use patterns in Chino Valley reflecting large residential use lots spreading out long distances from each other and forming and from shopping, schools, parks, services, and other uses. This is a portion of the general plan that describes how Chino Valley is right now. We're large lots, where everything is far away. It doesn't encourage pedestrian traffic, and we don't have sidewalks, things of that nature. Why? Because we have large lots, everything's far away. Within the community core, it encourages more pedestrian friendly, where activities are done within the core area. And this development will support that vision of the major community core, providing smaller lots, higher density, a walkable area. He will be providing sidewalks. Here's just a map that shows the subject property and the properties surrounding it, and how all these properties relate when it comes to density. He's requesting a higher density that's not allowed within our code, so he's requesting it with a PDF overlay. But as you can see here, there's other properties abutting it that also don't meet our development standards and also have a way higher density that's allowed within our development standards. And I'll just go down the line. We have Colonial Villas, who is providing lots that are 8,190 square foot average. We have Chino Meadows, which also has a higher density, 8,000 square foot lot size. Highlands Ranch has an average lot size of 6,400 square feet. Roadrunner Mobile Home Park to the west has approximately 3.5 mobile homes per acre. I think they have a total of about 32 mobile homes within that mobile home park. And Country West Manufactured Home Park has 7,260 square feet minimum site area. That's 6 mobile homes per acre. So the density is there. I mean, if he was going to be requesting a high density, this would be basically the perfect place to do it, because the surrounding development supports that kind of density. Not only that, but him being right next to the community core that calls out a higher density, more pedestrian friendly traffic. It supports this type of development. So staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission forward a recommendation of approval to Town Council to adopt ordinance 2019-876, rezoning approximately 10 acres of real property from the agriculture residential 5-acre minimum zoning district to the single-family residential 7,000 square foot lot minimum lot size zoning district with a planned area development overlay district with the deviations that he has requested. with the following conditions. Condition number one, or stipulation number one, the project shall substantially conform to the site plan, landscaping plan, conceptual building elevations, and other exhibits provided by the applicant as modified by staff recommendation conditions. Condition number two, developer shall provide a 6-foot fence installed on the property line of each lot fronting on Road 1 East, Juniper Drive, in addition to a 6-foot wooden fence shall be installed along the south property line. Condition number three, the developer shall provide proof of assured water supply from the state of Arizona. Condition number four, the town of Chino Valley has an existing 12-inch water line and Juniper Drive right-of-way along the property frontage. Properties will be required to connect. Additionally, the installation of a fire hydrant at a maximum of 500 feet spacing will be required along the water main shall be extended along the property's entire frontage on Road 1 East per Town Code 51.060. Condition number five, the developer will be required to construct a new 8-inch sewer line along the property's entire frontage per Town Code 51.060 in lieu of a construction of a new 8-inch sewer line along the perimeter of the entire frontage of the property per Town Code 51.060, an 8-inch sewer line that is extended through the development and terminating within the right-of-way of Road 1 East on the southwest corner of the development is acceptable.
Hey, Alex, you might
Yes.
move your slide for, oh, you just did, okay, good.
Okay, condition number six, the town of Chino Valley area drainage master study shows possible flooding potential on the east side of the property. Building design will need to take into account. In addition, right-of-way or drainage easements may be required. Condition number seven, all drainage ways that convey 50 cubic feet per second or more during 100-year flood event shall be considered and regulated flood as shall be dedicated to the public with provisions for maintenance access ramps. And the final condition, condition number eight, a drainage study that addresses hydrology and hydrologic components related to on-site and outside drainage shall be developed and prepared by the registered Arizona professional engineer. The drainage study shall be provided before the street improvement plans and final plat area approval. If the subdivision will be developed in phases, a master drainage plan will be required. And all of this condition from 2 to 8 is per Public Works Director.
Alex,
Yes.
there's also conditions 9 through 13.
Oh, thank you. Condition number 9, the developer shall dedicate additional right-of-way 50 feet of the road center line on Road 1 East and 25 feet west of center line on Pepper Tree Drive. Additional right-of-way or drainage easements may be required on Juniper Drive pending engineering study results. Condition number 10, a developer shall provide the east half of Road 1 East and the south half of Juniper Drive along the project limits per town street drainage standards. This includes but is not limited to new road, section pavement, edge treatment, sidewalk, and utility relocation as necessary. Due to pending drainage project, improvements on Pepper Tree are not recommended. Cash or other amenities in lieu of improvements is recommended. Condition number 11, a traffic impact statement for this development will be required. Condition number 12, City of Prescott has an aerial easement for power lines. This may limit development in the vicinity of this easement. And final condition, condition number 13, a 1-foot non-vehicular access easement will be required along Road 1 East. And I believe that's also within the development plan that it's showing that a non-vehicular easement not only on 1 East but also on Juniper Drive. And for those that are not familiar with that type of easement, it prevents the residents from accessing their property from the side of their property on 1 East, or the rear of the property on 1 East, or the side of the property on Juniper Drive. So all access has to be through the front of the lot, basically.
Thank you for explaining that. That was good.
Just keep in mind also that this is just the first step. If Mr. Aslanian does receive his recommendation of approval, he still needs to go through the subdivision process. As you know, Planning and Zoning Commission have seen several preliminary plat and final plats before. There's a whole list of other things that he will need to attribute to or abide by within those stages of development. So you will probably be seeing this sooner than later through the preliminary plan and final plat.
Thank you, Alex.
The developer is here. If any other commissioners have any questions for him or of myself as staff or any other staff that's here.
So while you're up at the podium, I'm sure we have some questions. Commissioner Meadors, would you like to pull the microphone up to your face, please?
The 6-foot fence is gonna be along Juniper and 1 East. It doesn't state, is that going to be chain link or block?
I believe he is going to be providing, and maybe he can correct me on this, but I believe it's going to be a chain link on Road 1 East and Juniper Drive, and a wooden fence along the south property line here.
Maybe the applicant can clarify?
Yes. Commissioner, I come up here.
Yep. And state your name for the record.
Hi, I'm Paul Aslanian, the Arizona Development Company. I had committed to in the public comment process, and I told staff that I would be happy to put along the south property line on the adjoining neighbor's property a wooden fence. They were concerned that, and I said, how would you feel about what type of fence would you like? I said, you probably wouldn't want a block fence. And they said, absolutely not. Don't want to have that kind of a feel. So I agreed to put a 6-foot wooden fence along that south line. As far as along Juniper and Road 1 East, we hadn't really gone that far to think about that. I don't picture a chain link fence anywhere there. I picture a wooden fence or maybe a vinyl fence like I did in Parkside Village. That was my development there, like we did there. Something like that, something that's attractive, but definitely not a chain link fence and probably not a block fence either. So,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll just
Alex, would you step back up, please? Any of the other commissioners have any questions or comments?
Just one. Actually, I guess mine might be for Frank. Frank, he makes reference as one of the recommendations about the city of Prescott aerial easement of power lines. Where specifically does that lie? Or is that your area, Alex?
That would be Frank.
Actually, I think the applicant's pretty well versed on this, so he might.
Why don't we hold off
Yeah.
for the applicant to
That's
come up after we finish with town staff, please?
But
We
for
can
general
always have you guys come back up again.
I'm sorry, but just for general reference, it's looks like it's about west of the Western Drive entrance, right in that area, about where that western entrance is.
There's no existing power line there now, am I correct?
Yes, there is.
Oh, there is one there, okay.
That's how City of Prescott gets power to their wells. It runs
Okay.
cross country through there.
Okay, I understand now.
So it's possible that some of those lots, because of clearance issues with the power lines, may be affected by the,
Right, we would not allow building permits if those lots fall within that easement, just like we did to the subdivision to the north.
that would be because of a busted line could drop straight down and electrocute somebody.
Yeah, it's because, and that would be lifted at the time that those power lines in the future get rerouted. There's talk about possibly rerouting those power lines to follow 1 East or use the existing power lines. If those power lines and that need for that easement ever go away, then the building restrictions would be lifted on
Lifted
those
off.
affected lots.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for staff at this point?
Yeah, just one more. Number 6, the condition for number 6. So you're saying there's potential, based on further analysis, on the drainage master study shows possible flooding potential on the east side of the property. Building designs may need to take into account. In addition, additional right-of-way or drainage easements is required. So if you go back to the plat or the proposed plat, okay, so, that'll work. That'll work. So we're looking at potentially, like, let's say number 37, 38, 39. Is this what this is saying is potentially if we need more area, we're gonna need more of those lots? Explain what you interpret that to mean.
Slight chance. It's probably all going to be contained within that open space. We just wanted to cover ourselves just in case. And that is also where we're looking at future flood control projects. The next priority in our flood control is to actually look at the drainage as it goes down Juniper, where right now it goes across into Chino Meadows too.
So that could potentially, in the future, that 2.5 acres of open space could be like built as a retention pond as well for big flood.
I wouldn't say retention pond. I would
Another word.
say that there's water that goes through there that we might be working with the applicant or whoever owns the property if it's, and that's part of the trick of the code with that 50 cubic feet per second stating that shall be deeded to the town. That's straight out of the code. So if the commission feels that the applicant needs to have more leeway to use that open space, I don't know, Josh, am I out of line by saying that that's part of the give and take of the PAD process?
Yeah, that's what the PAD is for. So there is flexibility on both sides.
So, but under our current studies, it looks like most of that flooding would be contained in the open space, and as they do the drainage design, those numbers will be refined over. Our studies are large scale, so they're not as refined as the drainage study that's going to be done on this particular property. So we'll have more accurate models as they go through their engineering process.
So if I understand this right, by making that 50 cubic feet a regulatory flood level, that can affect the construction of those homes adjacent there because it is regulatory. There are certain codes that apply to that.
Frank can correct me if I'm wrong, but those lots would be developable as long as the base flood elevation were above a certain point.
Right,
So-
you have to be 1 foot above regulatory flood level.
or two, depending.
Right.
Correct.
But by making it regulatory, you're setting a standard there that he can't go below that standard. Am I correct?
Right.
Yeah.
We treat it just like a FEMA floodplain, for
Right.
example.
Yep, that's good. That's a good deal.
I will add that as this is the rezoning, it's not the even the preliminary plat. This is just a conceptual plan. As Frank mentioned, all those engineering design will occur during the platting phase. So you'll have another look at this in more detail. Contours, the flooding area, the open space, etc. So this
That'll all be laid out by a civil engineer.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Then one last area. If you go back to the slide, Vicky, that deals with the sidewalk conceptual and the vegetation, and I'm,
One more. Oh, keep going.
keep going.
Keep going. So with the green and orange. Nope. Keep going.
There.
That one.
Oh.
That one.
So, Alex, during your presentation, you made it clear that the top one reflects what the town ordinance calls for, and then the bottom is what he's proposing based on his planned area development
That's
overlay.
correct.
Okay, my question, and I'm asking, if you look at the bottom, let's look at lot like 7 or 8, 7, and 6. Are they not being proposed there because it would take away the 50-foot dedication? Is that the issue? I'm just kind of curious why, to have a sidewalk go everywhere except for there and there and there. It just seems odd, and I was just wondering what the rationale was.
I will
behind
leave that to the applicant to answer.
Okay.
Part of that, I think, was to facilitate off-site parking.
Would you like me to answer it
Yeah,
now? Okay.
I'm trying to let's get the town staff out of the way, and then we'll
That's
let
what I
you
thought. That's what I
have
thought. you
right
wanted
at
to
it.
do. Okay.
That's all I have.
Anybody else have any
Regarding the
questions?
sidewalk issue, I may point out that I can't think of a subdivision that actually has sidewalks at all. Highlands Ranch, there's no sidewalks. I can't think of any sidewalks in Bright Star. Frank, correct me if I'm wrong.
Colonial Villas.
Oh, Colonial Villas. Okay, I apologize.
No, I was
There is one
curious for my own
subdivision.
edification,
Yeah.
what the rationale was, why.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm curious. It just seemed odd to me that it would be like that.
Well, it might serve those lots a little bit better if that sidewalk were on that side as opposed to for lots 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. And you might want to add that as a stipulation if you recommend approval, that sidewalk be moved to the other side instead.
I don't know that at this point that's something we need to worry too much about. He actually discusses it in his wordage that it's to help facilitate off-site parking, if I'm correct. Anybody else have any questions? Yes, sir. Pull it right up close to your lips there.
Question about between lots 13 and 14, that sewer easement, is that closed sewer? Is that a ditch, or what is that?
I can answer that. If that would be underground sewer, and that's the give and take of all. Since Colonial Villas to the north is already served with a sewer plan, there's really not much need to extend the sewer actually within Juniper Drive. What we're looking for is to get that sewer to where we can go further south with it, down 1 East or into the Roadrunner Park. So as long as that sewer line runs through the development and is extended through that easement, it's an underground pipe, so you won't see it above ground. But as long as we get the sewer on 1 East, I think that'll facilitate any future connections or extensions the town needs without having to go through the added expense and future maintenance of additional lines in Juniper and 1 East. It minimizes tearing up roads in the future to fix pipes.
They're already being served anyway, so it wouldn't be really doing anything to go down that road.
That's
Both
correct.
both properties on both sides of the road would have sewer at the point.
That's correct. That's why we feel it's more efficient to do it this way.
Yep, I would agree. Yes, ma'am.
Since this property originally had Chino Valley irrigation rights on it, does that convey to the city of Chino for water for the city usage then, or does it just go back to Chino Valley irrigation?
No, the water rights between the property owners and City of Prescott is an agreement between them. The town of Chino Valley has no authority or access for that. Where the water rights come in is the applicant will need to provide a certificate of assured water supply for this subdivision.
No, I mean Chino Valley irrigation, the flood irrigation, like they did for agriculture. This property was still had rights to flood irrigation. So when it's developed, you're not going to be putting in irrigation so do the rights convey back to the city? Does it go back to Chino Valley irrigation to be used somewhere else, or does it turn into the city for drinking water?
Might have to defer to the applicant to talk about what water rights they have or do not have. I'm not as familiar with that. I thought you were discussing the agreement where Prescott purchased the Watson and Willow Lakes.
Not the domestic drinking water. I'm talking about the flood irrigation.
Well, that was part of that deal where City of Prescott bought the surface water rights from
Well, this
Chino
still
Valley.
had irrigation rights on this land of water for agriculture.
It's not real, well, it may be tied in, we don't know, that's part of the question. Is the City of Prescott and the Chino Valley Irrigation District, are their water rights tied together on this piece of property? What happens to that?
Might prefer the applicant answering that.
That's fine, we can always
Okay.
ask you to report back and let us know.
Yeah, as a general rule though, if it's what we call a CVID property, that's one where during the deal they made, the City of Prescott agreed to serve up to 1 home per acre worth of water in exchange for those rights.
Okay, that
And-
makes sense.
Okay.
So just to clarify, the water, the assured water is by them hooking into the town water supply, is that providing that certificate for them, for the assured water supply? Or are they hooking into town water there?
No, they're almost two separate issues when you look at it from a legal perspective. The water rights is the water credits that they need
No,
to.
I understand it. I'm talking about the assured water supply.
That's
Is that provided by the town of Chino Valley?
the assured water supply is the water rights.
Oh, okay.
So the assured water supply is the legal water that they bring to the table and satisfy the state ADWR with the 100-year safe yield and the water credits. And all Chino Valley does is say we will serve them that water. So where they actually pump the water from is not as important as having the legal right to withdraw the water. Basically what they'll do is they'll sign over the withdrawal right, for lack of a better term, to the town so that we can pump the water that they had
They're trading.
their rights
They're
for.
trading a resource with you.
Right.
I got it. Thank you. Anybody else? Now, if the developer would like to come up and speak,
Answer all 68
yeah,
questions.
please state your name and
Sure.
have at it.
Paul Aslanian, Arizona Development Company, and then my assistant John Darrow is here also. He may be our finger pointer up there if we need that to cover some things. I can cover a couple of things that I would like to address if I could, but I'm
Absolutely.
also open
It's
for
your
questions.
turn to speak as you wish.
So I just wanted to, first of all, thank you for allowing me to come before you and explain our project. I think it's going to be a great project for Chino Valley and offer some reasonably priced housing and hit a price point that isn't met anywhere in the Prescott area, but still maintain site-built homes. So that's our goal here. And in similar to as when I built Parkside Village, we think it's going to be an asset to the community. So I wanted to point out something. Alex and I were just talking about it. I noticed in the packet today that it said the streets would be private streets, and that was not the intention to be private. The intention was to be public. If I wanted them to be private, it would be a gated community, and then we'd have to maintain our own streets. So that's not the intention. The intention is to have them be public streets. I just wanted to clarify that. Also, these are smaller homes, so even though if we looked at that, we looked at the setback requirements, again, we're stating things in minimum terms. If I look at our average footprint and I look at that building setback, building site potential, I was figuring that on those 100-foot deep lots, which is most of those lots in the cul-de-sac, the two cul-de-sacs that go up, most all of those are 100-foot deep. Yeah, this would be great. Can I go over here and
Yes,
I can talk loud, so.
well, you can steal his microphone if you need to.
I'm a loud talker, so as long as tell me if you can't hear me.
We then won't be able to hear you, so
Oh, okay. Sure. Okay, so I'll do this. So what I wanted to point out is if I took our average house, which is about 1,200 square feet, and I looked at the building area that we have, I'm just going to point over here. So let's see.
there you go.
Good man. Should be on. Testing. Can you hear me?
Yes,
okay,
we
good.
can. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So if I look at this local street depiction here, where it shows 10, 11, 5, and 5, that's a local street without a sidewalk. We're not going to fill that out by any means. I mean, we want to have a backyard for people. What I was pointing out that this is about 3,200 square feet, and the footprint of the house with a garage would be between 1,500 to 1,700 square feet. So it's only going to take up about half of what you see there. So these are minimums that we wanted to be able to set because each plan is different. One plan might be wider than the other. My objective would be to create more spacing than just the 5-foot minimum. At a 40-foot wide house, this is what it would look like. I can tell you that the 3 designs we showed that we have here, this one, for example, I know is 36 feet. So that's 4 feet more than what is depicted at a minimum. This house doesn't show a garage. I would probably do a 1-car garage, and it was 30 feet. So again, it could probably, I'm sorry, it wasn't 30 feet. It was 26 feet plus the garage. So I think we would be, again, over what you see here. So this is just a minimum. There was also, I'll go back to the podium here. there was also a question by one of the commissioners about we were talking about sidewalks and why sidewalk one side. There were several reasons. One is we want to make sure that we can still have enough setback depth into the garage area that we would have between back a curb. And if you think how a street's built, you've got the paved section, right? And you've got a curb. And then either behind the curb you have a sidewalk or you have landscaped area. And where we connect from the garage to the curb, on those lots that, if we had sidewalk both sides, we would be pressing that to where, again, the houses would have to set back further, because our objective is to have, can't remember what it said on the plan, John, look up in the right-hand side. I think it was 19 feet, or was it 21 feet? It was, I think, what we were trying to achieve. Thank you.
22 feet from back of curb to sidewalk.
Back a curb, actually back a curb to the front of the garage. So the point is, we wanted to make sure we had enough off-street parking, that the houses were not, if you park a truck in your driveway, that it's not setting out into the street. And there's subdivisions in Prescott that I can tell you that they don't set them back far enough, and people are hanging over the sidewalk, they're hanging over the curb, and we don't want to do that. So, dealing with a smaller lot, it is a little trickier, but fortunately, with the size of the houses, it affords us to be able to make that work. And then the final thing that I have that I just wanted to point out, and also see if there's any corrections, and thank you for allowing me to talk, and I'm happy to answer all the questions you have, is we talked about low water usage plants, not necessarily xeriscape. I just didn't want to, I didn't picture a desert type of landscaping, but low water usage at the same time. I've done that in the past. I did that for most of Parkside Village, that's in that realm too, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know we have some questions, so who wants to start?
I just wanted to go piggyback on a question you asked earlier to Frank. And I thought I heard it, but I wasn't sure. This will be connected to town water in lieu of city, Prescott, am I correct?
I believe so. I believe the applicant expressed interest in connecting to town water and sewer.
And
That
there's
is-
no legal prohibition from you going to the town versus the city?
No, we have that option, as Commissioner, is it Meadors? Meadors. Pointed out, we do have both options, because this property was in the CVID and it stayed wet, so it does have the ditch water rights that you spoke about. So it allowed us to have up to approximately 10 hookups with the city of Prescott. We also know that city of Prescott has fire flow issues to meet town code for fire flow with their existing lines, and it made sense for us to be all tied in with Chino Valley for both water and sewer. So that's the plan, is water and sewer by the town of Chino Valley.
We'd rather you spend your money here anyway.
That's right.
And the bills are
Anybody else have
cheaper.
another question?
It's not gonna be another Saddlewood, is it?
What's that?
It's not gonna be another Saddlewood.
No, I picture, what I picture with this through, as you can see, the conceptual designs, is kind of that throwback to a craftsman style, cottagey homes, a nice look to them, not cookie cutter in the sense, they are smaller square footage, but that helps us achieve the price. If we made the lots bigger and we threw 1,500 to 2,000 square foot houses and made them 350, 400,000, we'd be just like every other development. We're
Right.
trying to create something unique here and a lot more affordable.
Thank you. Commissioner Passiat?
Yeah, by the way, you do have a note here saying that it will be public streets.
Thank you.
It's number 8 on your notes.
Thank you. I appreciate you finding
Okay.
that for me.
And this is probably something that, it looks like it's gonna be an HOA.
Definitely.
Okay. Note 12 says they're gonna take care of the landscaping on the perimeter. You might want to include the fence on Juniper and 1 East and the rear of the property. Otherwise, that'll fall back to the individual owners.
Good point. We'll address that. Thank you.
Okay, and when you say parking on where there's no sidewalk, how's that gonna be enforced? I mean, signage maybe?
So I pictured signage, you know, you see signage around communities where you can
Sign-
only park one side.
Signage and HOA requirements.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
Last item, just for your consideration, you have non-vehicle access easement on 1 East and Juniper Drive. You might want to consider lots 4, 5, 21, 28, 29, 36.
Let me follow you here for a second.
Say that again?
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's it. Well,
If you don't have it, they can do it.
yeah. Well, I was considering, I was thinking about on those lots, it might come up with a plan that had a, well, two things. First of all, it depends on, with the council and the commission, what we end up with on the setbacks. It's a concern because it's on a street, and if we have too wide of a setback in there, then the only way to build a house would probably be to have a side load garage, to have it come in from the side.
That can be addressed in the final plat then.
Sure.
If I can jump in on that, as far as town codes, we only are looking for the non-vehicular access on 1 East. Juniper's a plus because even though it's classified as a local road, it acts more like a collector. But from a traffic point of view, if they had a side entrance on those local roads, traffic-wise, I don't think it makes much of a difference which road they come in on.
It's
From
just
a
a
non-vehicu-
consideration, that's all.
Well, I'm just trying to tell you my opinion
Yeah.
from a traffic point of view that
I'm-
there's no need from a traffic engineering point of view to restrict those lots as far as which side of the lot it comes off of.
Well, you're
In-
also
in
the
my opinion.
developer and the builder, so you have the choice there.
Right. And, you know, that's something we would look at. Would I rather? Probably not. Just the flow would probably be better if it wasn't. You know, I would tend to agree with that. But we need to look at what the restrictions are going to be on that lot, buildable wise. But thank you, though.
Do you
That's
have
all.
other questions?
No.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We may ask you to come up again after the public comments. All right, so we're gonna open up the public portion of this meeting. That's allows the public to come up and speak to this item. If you choose to come up and speak, please be concise, be polite. We had a little issue at the last zoning meeting. We will all be respectful and act like grown-ups here today, which I'm sure you will. So anybody would like to come up and speak, please step up, raise your hand, I'll call you. Step up to the podium, state your name, and let us know what you're thinking. Anybody like to speak? Seeing no comments from the public, I'm gonna close that portion of the meeting. Is there any other questions from the commission to staff or to the owner of the project? Okay, so seeing neither one of those, I would entertain a motion.
Can I add a discussion?
If you want, we can
Well, it's
have a
it's-
discussion after the motion unless this is gonna not be
Well-
for the motion.
No, this will, I'm debating whether or not we should add a number 14 to
Well,
the conditions.
we can do that as discussion after the motion is made.
Okay.
So I would entertain a motion.
I move that recommendation of approval to town council to adopt ordinance 2019-876, rezoning approximately 10 acres of real property from AR5 agricultural residential 5-acre minimum to zoning district SR-0.16 PAD single family residence 7,000 square foot minimum acre lot. Zoning district with a planned area development overlay, zoning district with the conditions as stated in the staff recommendation, with the modification of number 13 that it also include Juniper Drive.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion And we have a second with the modification, and now we can open it up for discussion.
And it may not be necessary, but I was thinking of a number 14, that the developer commit to utilizing the town of Chino Valley's utilities for water and sewage. I know that he explained that he had the option of going one way or the other, and we all kind of seemed to think it would be better to be hooked up to the town's system. So I thought, maybe is there a way that we can make a commitment that they do hook up to the town, so that later we don't find out, oh, we're going to go to Prescott.
It's number 4.
It is number 4.
He's calling for sewer and water.
We don't need number 14. Disregard everything I just said. I thought I read it thoroughly, but I guess I didn't.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second with a modification, which would include Juniper Drive as part of the 1-foot non-vehicular access easement. Would the developer have any heartburn with that?
He's already got it in his notes.
Sorry, I missed.
So in the town's requirements, they did not list Juniper Drive as having the 1-foot non-vehicular easement. And we're requesting that be included. That just allows people from not dumping out onto Juniper Drive.
That was our intention. Are we sure that's not on the plat? Let me look at the plat.
It may possibly be there.
I thought I saw it in writing
If-
somewhere.
If I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
we purposely did not include that in the conditions because it's not a requirement of the code, but the developer may have different, that's why it may be different than what you were proposing. You were going above and beyond what staff was recommending.
Well, to what Commissioner
that's
Commissioner
number 10.
Pasiak was saying,
That's number 10 on the notes. So,
is it included on Juniper Drive? I thought it was.
yeah, it is. Number 10
Okay.
on your notes.
It may not be depicted on the map, but that's what we had intended and agreed to, and as you had pointed out, it really makes sense there, and nobody needs to be backing out into a street like Juniper.
You want to amend your motion to remove with Juniper Drive out of the item 13?
I'll remove Juniper Drive out of 13.
Okay, so we've amended our amendment. All right, so what's before us now is a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 2019-873.
Six.
Six, I was
876.
changing it from the other way. 876, with the amendments as listed in the staff recommendations. So that's what we're voting on.
Which is 1 through 13.
Yes, sir, 1 through 13 with all of the wordage that we discussed about needing and not needing. All right, so 876, yes. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion is
Nay.
passed unanimously. Oh, you voting nay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Would you please state your reasoning for voting nay for the record?
I would like to see the project conform to the SR 0.16 standard conditions, and which meets the area to the areas around it more closely that are already zoned to the SR 016 or conform to the SR 016. Larger lots,
All right.
7,000 minimum.
Thank you, sir. So the motion is carried. And we will note also the nay vote and the reasoning behind that in the record, please. I should have called for a roll call vote. I apologize. All right, so we're going to move forward to item 7, non-public hearing action items. I don't believe we have any of those this evening. Any discussion items? None of those. Okay, we come to the portion of the meeting, public comments. This is an opportunity for the public to address the commission on any issue within the jurisdiction of the commission that is not on the agenda. We encourage public comment. Is there anybody here who would like to step up and comment about anything that is not on our agenda tonight? Seeing nobody wanting to volunteer for that, we're going to move forward to item 10, which is a motion to adjourn.
I make
I'll
the
move.
motion we adjourn.
Okay,
I'll
we
second.
we have multiple motions and seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you, Commission. Thank you, sir, for your development. It looks awesome.
All right.